Hello there!
Hey!
Welcome to our second video, and today the topic is
Emotional presence.
so how to recognize if you have emotional presence in your life, if you have somebody who's like emotionally present with you, why it's important and how you can recognize.
What it even means. What does emotional presence even mean? And how to create it in your life.
If you don't have it.
Emotional presence is something that is actually missing in most people's lives. And sadly, most of us don't even recognize that we're missing it. We're completely not aware that this is something that's lacking. We might simply feel like this vague emptiness inside of us, or like this kind of desperate neediness for something that we can't really grasp, like a kind of like a closeness or intimacy, but that we can never really get the satisfaction of.
You might feel alone and isolated, although that you are with people, and you could be with many people and you could still feel alone and isolated.
Yeah, and completely unseen.
For some other people, it might be you're living in a relationship that you feel your partner is not really interested in understanding you. For other people, it could be that you're living with your parents. Some people feel like they're living with robots.
Robots. Yeah. Yeah, so what is emotional present exactly then? Well, from our personal life, we would say it's simply making space for the other person's emotions. So this might be, for example, a woman crying for something that happened between her and her husband, and emotional negligence would look like the husband walking away from her. Whereas emotional presence might look like him sitting down with her and simply holding space for her pain.
And with the intention of being with her, with the intention of understanding her inner world, not with the intention of fixing her, changing her, making her different. Like all of this is not present. Present is just like being.
Witnessing.
Witnessing.
Without judgment.
Without making the other person wrong, without making yourself wrong, without the need to change anything about the situation. Just like as Eckhart Tolle say, be here and now, and extend your awareness not only to witness what's happening in you, but to witness what's happening in the external with this person.
Presence doesn't mean that you have to get sucked into the other person's emotions. Let's say you're holding space for grief. It doesn't mean you have to start grieving with them. You may empathize and feel their pain, but without losing your own center. And it doesn't mean also that you have to buy into their whole story of what happened. For example, they may have a story of them being a victim in this situation, and you might see from a higher perspective, from an outside, that it's not actually the case. But you might still can still validate their emotions, or if you understand how this made them feel this way, without validating the story. So let's maybe give a few examples about what emotional negligence looks like, just to make it kind of more clear and
so we can have you all on board.
Yeah.
What emotional neglect looks like.
So this might be, for example, a little baby crying and being left to cry herself asleep. This is like the very first time most of us experience emotional negligence. And it's tragic. If you imagine a little baby has no concept of time whatsoever. They don't know if the person is ever gonna come back. So most of the time what happens, the child dissociates from their emotions. They may dissociate from their bodies even.
I guess many of us, almost like everybody, experience this kind of pain, being neglected, being not considered and felt in this emotion.
Another example might be a child throwing a tantrum because they're not getting a lollipop, and the parent might tell them like, this is completely silly, like that this is not a reason to behave like this. But from the child's perspective, it totally is valid. They are having very strong emotions, and then the parent basically neglects their emotions by invalidating it and saying it's not okay to feel this way in this situation.
So another example of this would be a teenager who is depressed, and her mom would look at her and tell her like, you have everything here, like you have a beautiful place to live, you have your own room, you have like rich family, we provide for you everything, and not really going to understand what's happening in the inner world, in her inner world.
And don't be grumpy in front of the family.
Yeah.
Look happy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like so like unfair for her, because her internal reality is neglected.
Yeah.
She requested to look good in front of stranger, so her parents feel good about the situation, but actually she will feel more and more isolated and lonely. So if you are one of those teenagers who your family requests you to be good at school, appear good with your relative, whatever, and not listening to how your inner reality looks like, you must been through emotional neglect, and that's like very painful experience.
It's very painful, and you deserve to be seen in what is happening inside of you. And there are people out there who want to do that, who are capable of doing that. You just have to find them.
Yeah. How emotionally present would look like in this scenario?
Ooh. So that might look like, for example, the parent approaching the child and asking to see into her, to see into her inner world and what emotions she's experiencing and why. To understand also the story behind what is it exactly that is making her feel this way.
Yeah.
And just be there with her. There's no reason to try to change her.
Yeah. Not changing her is an important thing in this process, because it can give the message that there is something wrong. Like it can reinforce the belief that there is something fundamentally wrong about
therapy and antidepressants. It's not always the solution.
Yeah.
Never.
Yes.
I was feeling completely upset and I was in a trigger, and although he really wanted to stay with his game because he took time for that, it's like important for him to have his kind of own time. And he saw that I was triggered, so he came to me and he was present with me. And even though it was kind of triggering for him as well, because I was in a place where I couldn't see his perspective very well. I was kind of like angry and frustrated at him. But because he's consciously aware of triggers and emotions, he was able to hold this witnessing awareness towards me of like, okay, let me see what's happening inside of you without taking it personally. And soon he saw that I was actually in a child perspective. I was not in my adult perspective at all. And soon I was in a complete scenario from my childhood where I felt this way. So then when he saw that, it was very easy for him to continue being present with me and facilitating a trauma healing process.
Yeah, and for me was like at the beginning I was super triggered that finally I took like half an hour to play video game, and it's like my kind of like entertainment,
like a guilty pleasure
kind of thing. I was like out of sudden kind of like being angry at just like for taking time for myself. So it was also a trigger for me. But what happened that I saw that she's so much in her pain that I feel I can contain my pain, hold space for it, and in the same time hold space for her and give her unconditional presence. And that looked like when I came towards her, like she would tell the story that I'm the reason for the anger, but inside of me, like the witness awareness of me, know that this pain is actually way older than this, and this situation is just like an external trigger for this pain to come up. And when I'm becoming aware of this, I let this awareness hold her and show her that it's valid to feel angry on Ram. And at that situation, I kind of like validate the emotions, but not the story that Ram did something wrong. And that make completely different kind of like healing experience for her, that she could go fully to the anger and express the anger like with it they fight, guys.
Yeah, I was like I felt like I need to express my anger, but screaming is not satisfying enough because it feels like a monster that is inside and the scream is not like loud enough or something. So then we did play fighting, because then you can pour all your energy physically into like tackling the other person. I think I even like put you down at some point because I had so much rage in me.
What?
Yeah, and then you put me down. Okay, I'm the worst. So this whole concept of emotional presence might sound a little bit vague, but really it's life-changing. It's something that it's like a basic need for all human beings, and it's tragic that in some countries like it's literally non-existent.
And some people might be scared of being like emotionally present because we have this fear that if I go into somebody's sadness, I will be sucked into this. Like I would be sad, I would be angry, I would be miserable just listening to their story and how they are suffering in the inner world. And when you are actually present with them, you're having this compassion, and your vibration move from being sucked in those emotions to having compassion. So for example, I'm sitting with somebody, I feel with them the pain. That's true that I might feel the pain of this vulnerable situation, but inside me there's the awareness.
There's the witnessing consciousnness.
There's the witnessing consciousness that beyond this feelings, and when you hold the space for this, it feels like containment. It feels like you would feel like vast. You feel like beautiful state of presence.
So, how do you manifest this in your life if you don't have emotional presence right now?
Good question.
How to manifest it?
Manifest it.
Just manifest it. No. So, just as important as it is to be emotionally present with each other, it's just as important, or even more important, to learn to be present with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
To learn to hold space for our own emotions. So this means whenever I feel grief coming up, that I make space for it and I allow it to be there instead of trying to run away from it. We use all kinds of distractions like TV, sex, partying,
Even
overworking,
work.
to not feel. So in order to manifest that in the external, we have to first be willing to hold space for our own emotions. Otherwise, we will never ever be able to show our emotions to other people.
What's important about when you start to be emotionally present with yourself, that will show you the difference between neglecting yourself and when you have this treatment from outside, then you would notice that, oh, this person isn't present with me. This person is just like completely in a different reality.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can choose carefully with whom you spend your time.
Yeah, and you can treat the emotions like a little child. If there is a irritation coming up in a situation that feels silly to you and you tell yourself, I shouldn't feel this way, you can try to look at it like you would look at a child, like, oh, okay, the child is irritated, let's see why, what's behind that, and trying to understand yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that's making me feel this way in this moment? Yeah, so you can start it very simple, just like it's kind of like a meditation practice almost, where you just turn inwards and feel what's inside without judgment. And this is a very important point, to do that without judgment towards ourselves.
I find it very helpful if you can, maybe on your phone, like every maybe 1 hour or 2 hours, just like an alarm to remind you to check in with yourself. So it's like a kind of like a blind meditation. So you can check on with your phone like every 2 hours or 1 hour. You can see, okay, now I'm listening to what's happening in my inner world.
And this is not abandoning ourselves. Most of us, we are constantly abandoning ourselves.
And when we abandon ourselves, what happened? We lose this internal guidance system. Like if I'm not in touch with how I feel in this moment, there is like no way that I can know what's good for me in my life right now.
Exactly. Our emotions are what's telling us where to go, what path to take. So, for example, anger might be telling you, no, this is not okay with me.
Yeah, and if you neglect your anger, then you have no boundaries.
Yeah, so we really recommend that you try to bring this to your life.
And to your relationships.
Yeah, to your relationships. Like, try to be present with the people in your life and notice if they are able to do the same to you, and maybe reconsider if you want to maybe find people who are able to do that.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the most important things in our relationship, that we find friends, partners, family members who are able to give this experience to us. And it might be difficult at the beginning, but it's like a muscle, guys.
Yeah.
The more you train it, the more you
train the muscle of presence.
Train the muscles of presence. Play fight.
Yeah, so we hope that you enjoyed our video, and let us know if you have any questions about this topic. We know that this is a pretty kind of vague topic, and especially for those of us who don't have much experience with emotional presence, it might feel a bit like difficult to understand and grasp.
Yeah.
So feel free to ask.
You can ask us in the comment below, and I will answer you with Miia as fast as possible. I'm squeezed.
Okay, we love you guys. We hope that you enjoyed this video, and let us know if you have other topics that you're interested to hear about, or if you have any questions. And sending you so much love.
We forget to say subscribe.
And subscribe.
Subscribe.
Love from the Tenerife.
Yeah.
Canary Islands.
And the like button.
Like button too. And share.
Is it here or
share on social media.
Hello, Earthlings.
Hey there.
This is my face.
I forgot what we were supposed to say after this introduction.
No, I want to put it behind the scene.
No! No. Whatever he's talking about, it's a secret. You'll never find out.